Greetings. We talk about the income elasticity of demand. We've talked about price elasticity of supply and price elasticity of demand. So if you want to grasp these concepts, and it's always the same concept kind of, this third one is very related to the previous one as far as the calculation and so on, the logic behind it, the elasticity logic behind it. So if you want to grasp it even further, you can watch those two other examples as well. But what we're doing in this one, we're talking about income elasticity of demand. And what it measures is the percentage change or proportional change, we will just mention in a moment why that is related or why it is the same, is the percentage change in quantity demanded in a fraction to percentage change in income. Okay, so you can view a person, let's say, the income in a society or something, and how that influences the quantity demanded of a certain product. Let's give an example. So we're going from, let's say, 6 to 7. Or maybe this is a little bit hard to calculate. So let's say we go from 2 to 3 on price, okay? And that means the income rises from 2 to 3. Let's not even use the graph, maybe even easier will be income 1 to income 2. It goes from 2 to 3, okay? Dollars or whatever you can imagine behind this. Just the income went up 50% because it is compared to the initial value, which I will explain in a moment again. And the quantity demanded, so I can say quantity 1 to quantity 2, that means our quantity, there's a second thing we need for the calculation of this index. In this particular case, the quantity went, let's say, from 4 to 5. So the idea right here is we are comparing the proportionate change in quantity demanded, how it reacts to the proportionate change in income. Now, you might estimate that usually when the income goes up, the quantity demanded goes up as well. And you will see how that works out in this particular case, for example. So how to calculate it is basically you realize that the change is some certain number, and then you compare the change to the initial value. So let's say from 2 to 3, the change is, in this case, it's 1. And now for this formula, we will have to input it as 1, not just 1, but also we have to divide this number by the initial value. The initial value is the 2. So of course the change from 2 to 3 is 1, but you write 1 divided by 2 because you do it proportionally, and that's the division that makes it proportional in a percentage sense, but the percentage signs really cancel out, okay? That was also explained in the previous one, how that works out exactly, but they do cancel out because the proportionality, you will get, let's say, and I will show it with this exact example right now. So let's just calculate it right here. Finish the example. So the idea is the proportional quantity change of the proportional change of quantity demanded over the proportional change of income. Now it can be done in terms of percent signs, or you can do it just comparing it to the initial value, which you do anyway. But in the other case, you don't write, as I do right now, 1 over what the initial value was. It's 1 over 2, and we're just doing in this formula, okay? We're just doing what the formula tells us. Over, and again, it's y equal to the same, over the change in income, and the change in income is from 4 to 5, so it's also 1. And again, we just don't write the 1, because if actually we were just writing the 1s, in this case they're saying you would get 1, which is a valid result. It might happen, but what we're really doing in this case is we want to divide it by the initial value to make it proportional again. It's about the proportionality that makes it elastic, that brings about the idea of the elasticity, and why it can be written as percent signs. That's why you have the percentage change, because it's percentage change of it's how much of the initial quantity was added to it for it to become the new quantity. So let's say when we go from 2 to 3, how much percent of the 2 did the 3 need in order to become 3 out of the 2? That's the idea. That's the percent change. Now what I did is I just divided it by the initial value. And what this really tells us is, well, we went up 50%, because 1/2 is 0.5, and it is 50% in percent terms. and 1/4, that is 0.25, and that is 25% in terms of percent. So in order to carry out the complete result of this YED, well, you can continue by rewriting this as decimal form if that helps you, so 0.5 over 1/4 is 0.25. And you get to 50 over 25 if you want to write it as follows. You see this is 2 times bigger than the below one, so the result will be 2. Okay? Now, this is elastic, and there's rules for determining whether if something is inelastic or elastic and so on. I'm not going to go into that because this one is mostly about the calculation itself and why it works out the way it does. But the idea behind it, just to repeat once again, is, well, when we are calculating income elasticity of demand, we are comparing the proportionate change in income, and also we're taking account the proportionate change of quantity demanded. Now, how that works out is basically we look at the change from the initial income to the new income in terms of how much percent of the initial income had to be added to itself in order for it to become the new income. And for the demand or the quantity demanded, the same thing goes. How that is expressed is in your terms. Usually you can write it as follows with the percent sign because that helps. It makes bigger numbers. Instead of 1/2, then instead of 0.5, you would write 50%. So it's less common to get lost in the numbers, maybe. That might help. That's maybe the reason why the percent sign is used. But it's not absolutely necessary. You can just go with the decimal form. But you see the result will always be the same. You'll get a 2, where if you do 50 over 25%, and you see the percent signs will again up and below get cancelled out with each other. So the result for this particular case was 2, because of the calculation went as follows. And if you want to grasp it even better, you can just replay the example once again and try it out.